Hi, I'm Jura, the time traveler, and this is my lifestyle time travel blog. And today we are answering the web's most searched questions about the past. And now let's see what people are Googling for prehistory. So the most searched question is: how is prehistory different from history? So basically, prehistory is the time before the writing, and the history starts when people start recording their lives in writing. Now let's go to the second search, and it is: how is prehistory divided? So it is pretty simple. You have the Paleolithic, the Mesolithic, the Neolithic, and then you have the Copper Age, Bronze Age, and the Iron Age. And Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic all belong to the Stone Age, so it is pretty obvious which material was predominantly used for the production of tools. And now let's see, how is prehistory defined? We've said that at the beginning, so it is the time before the writing. And now next, how is prehistory investigated? The archaeologists do that. Now let's see, how is prehistory studies? I don't know what that means. How is prehistory studies? Maybe how is prehistory studied? I don't know, at the university probably. And now, how is prehistory periodized? We've said that before: Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic, Copper Age, Bronze Age, Iron Age. Simple. How is prehistory important? How is prehistory important? Well, prehistory is as important as any other period of time. You can ask yourself, how is present day important? And that is exactly how the prehistory is important. Because we always have to have in mind that we are not the first ones to roam this planet, that there were people before us. And innovative and genius minds of the prehistoric people are the reason why we have all of these innovations and all of this technology now. So now let's see, how is prehistoric art dates? I really don't know what this question means. How is prehistoric art dates? Maybe on Tinder? I don't know. Let's go. How was prehistoric planet filmed? I don't know. I think that that's some kind of a documentary or a film or a TV show that I'm not acquainted with. So I would say green screen. Maybe it's not the right answer, but it's mine. How old is prehistory? Well, the oldest artifact is 3.3 million years old. So that is how old is prehistory. And the oldest artifact is a stone tool from the Turkana Lake in Kenya. And now my favorite category, the Neolithic. So let's see what people are searching about Neolithic. So what was Neolithic Revolution? Neolithic Revolution was the time when the lifestyle changed, when the Neolithic lifestyle emerged. And that lifestyle is filled with innovations. And those are domesticated cereals, domesticated animals, invention of pottery, polished stone tools, sedentary lifestyle, and new social organizations suitable for this new lifestyle. Now let's see, what was the Neolithic Age? The Neolithic Age is the time when all of these innovations happened. So when they started building permanent settlements and domesticated cereals, animals, making pottery, and so on and so forth, that is the beginning of the Neolithic Age. And the Neolithic lasted until the copper became important for the production of tools. And now let's see, what was Neolithic religion. Neolithic religion is a bit mystery to us because we don't know which gods they had and how their rituals looked like. So what do we know? We do know that at the beginning of the Neolithic, during the pre-pottery Neolithic age, they worshipped wild animals because they didn't have domesticated ones. That was the time when they started domesticating cereals, but the animals were still not domesticated. And during the pre-pottery Neolithic B, when they domesticated the cereals and they almost finished the domestication of animals, they started worshipping, in some sense, humans. When they buried their ancestors beneath the house floors and when they made human sculptures. So human actually was pretty important in their imagery, in their art. And whether that was an ancestor or a god, we don't know. And when all of these transitions, when all of these innovations were invented during the pottery Neolithic, they started making female figurines and they started depicting bulls. So there is one interpretation that they actually worshipped a woman, a goddess, and her male counterpart was the bull. That is pretty questionable, but they're important in their imagery. They were making bukrania, they were making bull figurines, so the bull was important. And now, what was Neolithic pottery used for? Well, it was used for cooking, it was used for storage. And now, what was Neolithic life like? Well, it was hard. It was hard but honest life. They cultivated the land, they cultivated the cereals, they were herding the animals, they were making pots, they were making tools, or they didn't have toilets. So it was pretty dirty and smelly, I suppose, but it was an honest life of hardworking men and women. So now, what was Neolithic Britain like? What is Neolithic art? We've said that. What is Neolithic culture? Well, there are several Neolithic cultures. Every culture is different because they have different material culture. And that is how I'm going to answer to this question. What was Stone Age? Well, Stone Age was the period of time when stone was used to produce tools. That's Paleolithic, Mesolithic, and Neolithic. And now, let's see our last question. What were Neolithic houses made of? Well, usually in the Middle East, they were made from mud brick because there is not that much rain in the Middle East. But in the Balkans and the rest of the Europe, they were made in wetland daub technique. And now we are jumping through time and we are going to the Roman period. So let's see what people were actually searching about the ancient Rome. So, what was the Roman religion called? How to put it? It's Religio Romana, but that doesn't explain anything. The Roman religion was a polytheistic religion, so it means that it had many gods. And it was a mix between Etruscan, Greek, and Near Eastern religions. They had 12 major gods, or dii consentes. The principal god was Jupiter, and they had 6 goddesses and 6 gods. The 6 goddesses were Juno, Vesta, Minerva, Ceres, Venus, and Diana. And the 6 gods were Mars, Mercurius, Jovis, Neptunus, Vulcanus, and Apollo. They had lesser gods such as Cardea or Cloacina or Fornax, which we talked about in our previous video. And they also had domestic deities such as Lares and Penates. What was the Romanian Revolution? I suppose that was a revolution in Romania, but it's not a question for me. What was the Roman Empire? The Roman Empire was the time when they had emperors, one leader that was actually in charge of pretty much everything. And that was the time from 27 BC to 395 AD. Technically, the Senate also existed, but it wasn't that important. It was a consulting body to the emperor, and everything was done exactly as the emperor said. And maybe that is the reason why at certain periods of time there were emperors who ruled for several days, several weeks, because people didn't like what they were doing. So they had to be eliminated. The first emperor was Octavianus Augustus, and Augustus is actually the title of the emperor. So every emperor after Octavianus had this title. And now, what was the Roman Republic? The Roman Republic was the period of the Roman history between the Roman Kingdom and the Roman Empire. So from 509 BC to 27 BC. And this is actually the closest the Romans were to democracy, because the Republic or Republica is derived from res publica, which means a public matter, a public thing. So it is the thing of the people. And now, what was the Roman Forum? Roman Forum was the city center of the ancient Rome, and it was the place where all the government buildings, all the public buildings, some of the temples were, the most important temples were at the Forum. They had their processions there, their elections there, public speeches, everything. So everything happened at the Forum. And now, what was the Roman Colosseum used for? Roman Colosseum was the amphitheater or the arena, the biggest arena in Rome, and it was built during the 1st century BC. So what was it used for? Usually for the gladiator games or ludi gladiatori, but also the wild hunt, venatio. And those gladiator games and wild hunts had scenography. So they brought trees or false buildings there, especially during the wild hunt, where they tried to recreate the natural environment of those animals. So trees, bushes, everything. And in ancient Rome, everything was a spectacle, even the death sentence. So during intermezzo, they had ad bestias, which were fights between people condemned to death and animals. But people never won because they didn't have any weapon, they didn't have any clothes even. And now let's see what was the Romantic period known for. This has nothing to do with Rome, but I'll say Lord Byron, Edgar Allan Poe, William Turner and Francisco Goya. Now, what was the Roman Senate? This one is a complicated one. So the short answer is that it is a governing and advisory assembly in the ancient Rome. It was the most influential during the Roman Republic. And it was constituted mostly of the patricians, so the wealthy citizens, but at one point also the plebeians could be part of the Senate. And what was the Romantic movement? Another one that has nothing to do with Rome, but it was an artistic movement from the beginning of the 19th century until the middle of the 19th century. But let's get back to Rome, and now we have the final one, which is what was the Roman Empire known for? Well, I would say the roads, crazy emperors, luxurious lifestyle, decadence, brutality, persecution of Christians, persecution of Jews, fashion, yes, Roman concrete, aqueducts, I would say fountains as well, the law, gods for almost anything, festivals almost every single day, they knew how to party, that's one thing, volcano eruption. And now, what was Greek? You know, I can't do this anymore. This is a bit too much. It's really a long video, so I'll do this some other time. I hope you liked this video and you know what to do. Like, subscribe, share, send to all, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!